city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High.
Welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab.
Hello and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab. My name is Adrian Hernandez. I just made my face giant on the broadcast here if you're viewing it, and I didn't mean to do that, so give me a second. But thank you so much for joining us here on the Mile High Hockey Lab. I'm Adrian Hernandez here with Evan Liu, Jackie K, Ezra Parter, and I believe Brennan will be joining us shortly, Mr. Brennan Vogt. We're really excited to talk Avs today. We had an absolutely crazy comeback last night that we will, of course, get into today. We will also get into the news with Scott Wedgewood getting his first look, and we never heard from Ezra in terms of that trade, so I want to hear from him. And then, of course, we will get into our preview and a little bit of a recap from last week. Evan, first of all, man, what a great game, and what a great game to be at. Tell me, what were your thoughts having been in the building?
Yeah, my first Avs game of the year as a new Western New York resident. That is a mouthful. It was very, very improbable. I mean, I remember sitting. I got my ticket for like $20. I'm up in the last row of KeyBank Center, which was kind of dead, which was surprising. Yeah. But that's besides the point. And I'm just sitting there 4-0. I'm like, like it's cold outside. It's snowy. I have a 2-hour drive home. Like I might as well just go home now. Yeah. Glad I didn't, because that was one hell of a comeback effort by the Avalanche. And I like the way that Scott Wedgewood put it when he was traded here and talked to the media. When this team is down 4 or 5 goals, it doesn't feel like they're out of it. Yeah, it definitely felt like they were out of it last night, but wouldn't you know it, they came back and they won it. So it's wonderful, of course, that you get the 2 points. It's a great way to start off what I think is going to be a very telling road trip. This is the first of 5 on the road. December's full of road games, so you're really going to get a good idea of what this team has to offer going forward, right? Absolutely. And those first 12, 13 minutes of that game, that did not look good. Yeah. But you turn it around and you get what you need to do. So I'll take it, I guess. 2 points is 2 points.
It's funny. Last night we were kind of deciding who was going to get the baton to tweet the game on the Mile High Hockey account. And when the Avs went down 4-0 on my own personal account, I tweeted, great, now I have to watch the rest of this. And then, fast forward like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I just tweeted the same tweet. Great, now I have to watch the rest of this, because you're right. when it was 4-0 in the first period and Tage Thompson, Sabres were on the power play and it looked like Tage Thompson might get a hat trick and it might even be 5-0. It just didn't feel like there was any hope whatsoever. There was no life in the Avalanche. They did not get out on the right foot. I mean, I sent out a tweet which got interpreted wrong, but I'll admit that I could see how it was interpreted wrong, where I mentioned that, the start was unacceptable and I shouldn't have brought Jared Bednar up. I did to forego him of blame, but it was taken the opposite direction, which I get, like I said. But the whole point was like a start like that is just not acceptable. And Bednar even himself after the game mentioned that. Now I do want to talk about what you mentioned with Scott Wedgewood, which is his quote. And I actually have the video of it here in the post game. And I'll pop that up right now and let fans hear.
Well, good. You guys come back. I give it to Reggie. Boys, I said it when I got traded here. You guys are never out of a good squad. That was fun. 4 lines, 60, 2 tendies all year. Let's go. Let's move this.
Yeah, so that's Scott Wedgewood after getting the big lid from Val Nichushkin with a solid, 22 save performance for the Avalanche in spell of a still seemingly struggling Alexander Georgiev. Jackie, I want to send this one to you. What are kind of like if you had the best case scenario for Scott Wedgewood and then combine that with realism, what are your hopes and dreams for the Scott Wedgewood time here in Colorado?
Well, the best case scenario is what he becomes the miracle starting goalie and they win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, that's why I said mix in the realism. Yeah.
Well, maybe I'm the best person to ask this question because I'm not like a goalie panicker. I'm not panicking over. I think Georgiev is their guy regardless, unless they can pull off whatever huge move they'd love to make, but those are very difficult, especially in season. I think there's a much better chance than not that Georgiev's going to ride this thing to the end. So best case scenario for them is that he's their starter. If we're talking Wedgewood best case scenario, then this team might not even make the playoffs. I thought he was great. He was solid. I think he gives them stability. That's something they've been looking for in a backup. I think just continue to do that. Win more starts than you lose if you come in relief. Stop the bleeding, just like what he did. But honestly, this season does not rest on what Scott Wedgewood does.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
he just needs to be a good backup, and they need Georgiev to be the guy.
Well, that's why I posed the question the way I did, and I actually think you're the perfect person to ask because of your answer. Because I think it's easy for emotional fans like me to watch last night, watch that post-game interview and go, oh, did we accidentally just get our new starter? And I think that although, as you mentioned, pie in the sky, best case scenario, what we're really wanting from Scott Wedgewood is the serviceable, consistent veteran backup, which is what you've been calling for 2 summers.
Yeah, pretty much. He's much more well suited for that role. One thing I do want to point out, and what Bednar has said in a couple of his interviews about the room, they're also bringing Wedgewood for the room because he's you could see in that clip he's kind of that person that's very personable, is going to fire the guys up. And that's great. You need more guys in that. But it's interesting that Bednar would even kind of admit that the room needed it. As in, like, maybe there's not a lot of guys in there having a lot of fun, or there's not as much camaraderie as there used to be. I'm not trying to come up with some rumor like, oh, they all hate each other. But I think I've been saying this team leaves me cold. And I think maybe there is something to that. And Bednar actually admitted that they need somebody that's going to kind of bring the guys together.
I don't think you're too far off with that because, I mean, we've talked about before when you look at the guys who have since left the Avalanche after their success, a lot of those guys are in a similar vein in terms of character in the locker room. Landeskog, for instance, we know he's spoken of as kind of like the ideal captain when it comes to communication and leadership. And also he seems like a fun guy. JT Comfort, kind of a pest, seems like a fun guy. Kadri, all personality. Seems like he gets along well with the room, at least on the team that he's playing for. And so, like, I do think that we've seen that side of character in the Avalanche roster kind of go away. And I think you're right in keying on Bednar's mentioning of his character and kind of how that'll go in the room, because I think immediately with that video you see and you can hear kind of the group clamoring behind him as he's going through that. And this isn't really to take away from Georgiev, because I think it just comes with the territory of having a foreign goaltender, but like an English speaking and very clear speaking backup veteran goaltender in that room, I do think will go a long way towards building that camaraderie, I guess, for lack of a better term. But Ezra, we're talking about Scott Wedgewood, and we did an impromptu emergency podcast last week, a little bonus content just to get a quick reaction to the Annunen and Scott Wedgewood trade. And unfortunately, you weren't able to join us. So I'm curious, you even have the benefit of last night's performance. What is your reaction to the trading of Annunen for Wedgewood?
Yeah, I mean, the emergency pod was before I woke up over here on the West Coast. I woke up to the text saying, we're gonna get on an emergency pod. I'm like, okay, I'll run, I'll get there. And by the time I got there, y'all were done. But yeah, I mean, I think last night's game was really encouraging, because my first thought on the trade was Annunen and Wedgewood are probably like skilled, with Annunen having a lot more upside. So having to pay for that swap and then a higher price tag for the AAV on Wedgewood, I was a little bit down on it. But hey, he came in last night. He settled things down, and if he can be a veteran presence just for Georgiev, I mean, the whole team, the locker room, I don't know anything about what's going on in there. It seems to me like that's probably a factor, but not necessarily a huge one, just because I think those guys, McKinnon sets the tone and for the rest of the skaters, but for the goalie room specifically, I mean, Georgiev needs somebody who can settle his brain down, and Annunen is another guy who's young and isn't capable of doing that. I think, generally the Avs media for the last 2 years has been talking about needing a veteran presence. I like Annunen's game, so I was a little bit, sorry to see him go, but the way he's been struggling, man, that it had to happen. It absolutely had to happen. And Wedgewood seems like the only guy who was available. So there you go.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I agree with you. I was on the front foot with wanting Annunen to see more starts. I just think, unfortunately, it didn't work out. You can maybe make an argument that he still didn't get kind of the look he should have given the circumstances. And I think you can make a strong one given how much Georgiev struggled. But with the opportunity he was given and afforded, I just don't think he did enough to solidify himself as the backup. Yeah. And I think that's why you see this move. I totally agree with you, though. I like him as a goalie. But the other thing I wanted to ask you about, Ezra, which is more pertinent to kind of the future, is, Bednar on Altitude this morning said that they're monitoring sleep patterns with technology. They got 11 of their next 17 games. The Avs are on the road between today and January 9th. I said the future is now, because that blew my mind that they're tracking sleep, but I feel like now it shouldn't, because they're the world leader in playing hockey, the NHL. But like, how widespread do you think these sort of practices are in the NHL? Uh-oh, Ezra, you there? Did we lose you?
Oh, sorry. You were kind of breaking up for me, so I wasn't sure if you were asking me or not.
Oh no. Yes, you.
I have no idea. I mean, I bet it's pretty widespread. I think science is pretty incredibly advanced right now. From even where we were in the mid 2000s, things are so much more detailed, so much more just granular, I guess, in terms of what these organizations are looking at. And yeah, it makes sense that they're tracking sleep. I hope the players are all like excited about it, because that's a little invasive, but
I know.
I wonder if it's an idea from their new trainer.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if it's Landeskog's new job. He's just like sitting in the room while McKinnon sleeps, making sure that he sleeps through the night.
Yeah, I think they all sleep in one room.
Yeah, exactly.
Sleepover. It's a big sleepover party.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, Brandon, thank you for joining the program, Mr. Brandon Vogt, who had some epic video today. We'll get to that here in a second, but I want to get your reaction to monitoring the energy level because the Avs are dealing with so many injuries. Do you think that that's kind of like an adjustment based on the injury woes? And then give me your Jonathan Drouin and Ross Colton / injury updates.
Well, if they're traveling up and down I-25 as much as I am, they're probably darn tired. But no, I know they're all paper transactions for the most part. But it's a matter of just not going out when they're on the road, like and controlling how much they party. They can't party as much as they usually do, and all that fun stuff, because the younger guys want to do that, but it's just a matter of doing stuff like that. And with the college kids that have that discipline nowadays, it's not much of a transition.
Gotcha.
So,
well, I think you make a good point there because like McKinnon's probably just telling everybody to go home and go to bed. And I think you're right about that. But let's talk about some more pressing issues with the injuries in terms of returns. We've heard Jared Bednar talk about Ross Colton working, quote unquote, working toward a return on this trip. How confident are you in that being a reality?
Well, let's see, 4 to 6 weeks, or no, it's 6 to 8 weeks. That'd be about right. So, it's a matter of I've had me and my wife have skated through broken feet. Yeah. I'm not
one
awake.
Broken foot.
Yeah, no, it's like both of us have skated through broken feet, so it's not pleasant. But then if he were to take another block shot to it, that he's out for the year at that point. So
okay, well, that's so kind of what I'm deducing from that is it's kind of likely it matches the time frame, but you're a little bit concerned about kind of the wear and tear that could come with him returning and the vulnerability of the injury itself and his play style as a committed guy. But you got some video today of Jonathan Drouin returning to the ice, as well as Josh Manson getting some time. I'm going to add that to the stage here and let you talk a little bit about what you saw. All right, so tell me about it.
So Manson, understandably, he's right-handed, so he didn't switch his bottom hand onto the stick. I think this was more just to get him on the ice and get him skating.
Gotcha.
So he didn't grip the stick with his injured hand. So this tells me that it's his bottom hand that got hit.
Okay.
And now we don't know. We haven't been told with Drouin what exactly the injury is. Am I correct?
I'm kind of
shoulder is kind of the deduction, right?
Yeah,
it's the re-aggravation of the one that he got hit on in Vegas. So it's somewhere.
I've heard what it is, but I was sort of told in confidence, so I can't say what it is. Let's say mid-body.
Okay. So we'll talk on off air on that, but but I mean, he was moving well, whatever the injury is, and I mean, I didn't deduce anything from what it was based on what I saw today. So he was shooting and lifting the puck pretty good, and then he seemed to have some good speed on that shot. So the week-to-week thing, I think, is a little far off. I think that's a little too far-fetched, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
But what does week to week really mean? Like at least 2 weeks? I mean, it's been like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
To me, it just kind of meant the same timeline that he was on previously. So they're kind of like going back to that, I don't know, step.
Well, my thing too with all these injuries, of course, is one, they need to get healthy, right? I mean, that'll help the Avalanche. And I mean, I think you could kind of look at the start of last night's game of being like, oh man, this team's injured to hell and back. And like nothing's looking good right now, right? Anywhere. But I mean, we saw it with Drouin, and I'm worried about it with Colton, especially, is that if we rush these guys back too soon, I mean, that's no good for anybody, right? I think I mentioned it last week, where Nichushkin, I don't remember if it was last season or 2 seasons ago, where he had hurt his ankle and then came back, a couple weeks later, and then re-aggravated that ankle, and then he was out. So, I mean, that's something that the Avs have struggled with in the past, and it's just something that you need to be wary of, I guess, to say so. So, just get healthy, please.
Right.
I am concerned with that. Like Colton, it's a bone injury. It's kind of healed when it's healed, but it's true. Like, are they pushing it just a little bit? And we have to remember that guys like Drouin and Manson have been pretty injury prone. Like, they were pretty healthy last year, and I think it's easy to forget that those two have had a lot of injuries in their careers. So it's just kind of like, it's kind of what you bargained for there. I know it's unfortunate, but you look at other teams, like Minnesota just released an update with 4 their guys injured, 3 of them week to week. So it's like,
well, and one went on LTIR, and that one was an very, very unpleasant. I think it was Zuccarello. He got hit in the sack.
Ouch!
Beautiful.
You said you went up to that like you were going to say something so carefully, and then just
that's the only thing that I can really say.
Yeah,
he had to go to surgery, but they managed to save
Yikes.
it.
Good Lord Almighty.
Yeah. So
just offering a little perspective. It's not like, oh, woe is the Avs. Like, they have Val back, they have Lecky back. Like, this is just kind of more of a normal number, kind of regular.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to recover from the
That's pretty bad out week to week after that. Well, yeah, prayers to him.
I was gonna say happy holidays. Jeez, oh gosh.
Oh, and my thing is like I remember Patty Waugh used to institute a policy with the whole team that everyone had to have shot blockers on their feet, and
I don't get what happened to those. Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah, and it's like, I get it. They're clunky. They're heavy, but because I've worn them for a bit, and then I was like, they're kind of
annoying.
They kind of make your feet a little. Yeah, they're a little annoying, but it's hard to explain, especially when you're used to not wearing them for so many years.
It's a feel thing, totally.
Yeah, it's definitely a feel thing, and then he made the whole team wear them, and what do you know? Foot injuries went down.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when like one exploded. I don't remember whose it was, but it was like, look, that would have been a broken foot right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, anything you can do. I mean, the Avs should do everything at this point.
Exactly. And yeah, exactly. And like had Colton maybe been wearing the shot blocker, he may have saved his foot.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we can sit here and play what ifs all day, but an $85 shot blocker on your foot compared to
how much is Ross
several
$100
surgery? It's hard to say.
Yeah, plus the cost of not icing somebody who's getting paid millions of dollars to play hockey.
Right. Which you can argue it both ways.
That's a whole nother bag of pucks. But
let's have a whole nother pod for that one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess the positive news is it does kind of look from that video like Drouin is getting there. We're not sure on the week to week being realistic. The working toward a return on this trip for Ross Colton is good news. Hopefully, though, they wait it out and bring him back at the right time. But let's look a little bit ahead at kind of what the Avs have on the horizon in terms of matchups. And folks, please head on over to milehighhockey.com and see all of our written material. We do previews and open threads for every game. We also do recaps and opinion pieces and roundtables, just all kinds of fun Avs written material over there. So please go give it a look. And always give us a follow on X and subscribe on YouTube and Twitch, and you'll get all of our content whenever it comes out. So looking ahead this week, I'm going to start with you, Brendan, since you joined the program a little bit later. The Avs have the Canes, the Wings, and the Devils, and Pittsburgh to round out the road trip. It's a kind of a mix of quality and floundering opponents. Are you more concerned with the Avalanche beating the lesser teams decisively or contending with quality opponents at this stage in the season?
Let's see. The Canes, I'm a little concerned about. The Wings, I'm not really concerned about unless Kaner comes back.
Right.
Who else we got?
The Devils are decent. They're second in the Metro, and then Pittsburgh's not so.
Devils are back. I'd be concerned about the Devils. Then who else? That was it, right?
Yeah, those four.
Oh no, the
concerned with
Pens.
that Pittsburgh game.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh game's always hit and miss, it seems like.
Yeah.
So
I guess what I mean is kind of like, is it more important to you that will we learn more about the Avalanche if they beat bad opponents decisively, or win or lose, they just compete with good squads?
I just want them to win, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't we all?
I mean,
I think that's it.
Can you blame me? But
no.
I think what you do against the better teams. Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Jackie.
What you do against good teams, I think, matters more. Because the bad teams, it's not a guarantee. It's not just a handout. You're going to put up 5 goals and walk away. So they're not easy
look
either.
At Buffalo.
Yeah. They could have easily lost that one. And Pittsburgh's been tough to them. I think last year they had one of their quote unquote worst games of the year against Pittsburgh, and then they had it a few more times. But they're not good, but they can. I've seen enough of them this year that it's just odd. They're not a good team, but certain games teams just can't deal with them. I don't know. It's really, and it's going to be the end of that trip. We saw what it looked like in Tampa, and considering that the top players all played 26 minutes last night, like the clock's running. Like they might have nothing by then, and plus it'll be a 3 and 4 night by then. That might look pretty awful, but I do want them to look good against Carolina and New Jersey. Like New Jersey's a good team, so if they're not ready for that one, that could not be pretty either.
Yeah. Well, I asked the question this way because I think, given the context of this Avs situation right now, it is just about winning. You aren't really learning so much about the version of you that's going to be in the playoffs. I feel like right now, hopefully this is not the roster that the Avalanche have to go with that when that time of year rolls around. Hopefully they find a little bit of more health than they have now. So I feel like, yes, it's important to always compete with quality opponents, but like in terms of using them as a measuring stick, it's kind of not a realistic thing to do right now. So I'm just like 2 points, baby, 1 point, baby. Like let's get through these 4 road games. I think if the Avs end up with 4 of the 8 points available, I'll be satisfied. But if they can get 5 or 6, then we're really talking kind of steps in the right direction in terms of climbing the standings. But Evan, it's been a while since I've asked you a question, so I'm going to head this one your way. A big factor in last night's victory for the Avalanche and kind of comeback was the first goal from Nathan MacKinnon, which, funny enough, was a great shot, but it almost looked like it glanced off of a Buffalo Sabre and in. And so it was kind of, to a point, lucky. Obviously, MacKinnon, there's a lot of not luck involved every time he scores. But I guess, does last night's performance for MacKinnon, which he went on to have another goal and I believe an assist, does that have the potential to kind of spur on a heater for MacKinnon and the Avs?
I hope so, because I mean, Nate had not really kind of looked like himself the last, I would say, like week or two. And we finally saw a glimpse of that again, last night, of course. And that's great, of course. And he's the one at the moment that at least can lead the charge. He's the one that can turn a game on his head just by himself, right? And it starts with one. That's what happened last night. And then he eventually got the game tire, and I don't remember what his assist was on. I think it was the game winner, but yeah, I mean, he can do it all, right? And the team will fuel off of that energy, and I think that that's something that he certainly has the power to do. Like he certainly has the power to make that happen. So you better hope so, right? Because like I said at the top of the show, like this is a very important, not just road trip, but like month for the Avs, of course, because it's the busiest time right now. Most of your games are on the road. Because, I mean, I think you're home for 2 games after this, and then you're back on the road for, I want to say, 3 or 4 on the West Coast. So, I mean, it's just a really important time just to get points on the board, right? Yeah, because especially just because everything in the Central is so close right now. Like, you're going to be battling. So, you need anything that you can get right now. And McKinnon's the guy that can at least lead that charge.
Totally. And I asked that question because I remember when the Avs had injury problems. I think was it last year? No, the year before. Mikko just took over. And it was like Mikko and the Maniacs, and they still ended up just rattling off a bunch of wins. And I feel like that's kind of what this moment calls for the Avalanche as well. And maybe we can get it from Nathan McKinnon this time. But Jackie, one of the issues that I've noticed, and we talked about last week a little bit, was 5-on-5 scoring. And namely, we've seen Casey Middlestat really struggle 5-on-5, just kind of to get on the board in general. What do you feel like can be done to rejuvenate his success, I guess?
Well, I think this is kind of a big topic because, you know, we know that the team has issues, but I think he has some of his own issues too. So you sort of have to unpack, you know, kind of what he can control and what he can. You know, it's interesting that he got on the board with a lot of goals early, which really isn't him. So I think, you know, maybe that's kind of raised the expectation that he's going to score goals. He's going to score 30 for us. He never even scored 20 in his career. Now it was like 20 a fair expectation, sure, but so he was shooting like 17%. I don't know. So it's kind of like that part of it is just it might not really come back. But I think the deficit is that he's not generating 5-on-5 offense at all. Like he's supposed to be the assist guy. He only has 2 on the season, 2 5-on-5 assists on the whole season.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I think that's where kind of the problem lies, because that's what he's good at. I think I've been saying since the beginning, he's not a set and forget 2C. He's somebody you need to work with. He's a bit of a project. He's like, I've always talked about there's a range. Some guys you can just play wherever and they just it doesn't matter their environment or who they're playing with. Other guys need help. And I think he's a guy that needs help. I think they need to figure out one player that he has good chemistry with. I think they haven't really tried him a lot with Lehkonen this year. And I know that they needed Lehkonen on the top line, but I'd like to see that, find one person he can consistently find chemistry with, because they did kind of give him the assorted line mates, but he's played a lot with Rantanen too. And Rantanen was the second start of the month, and there were no assists there. So, so I think they need to look at that. I also think they need to look at his defensive performance. I know people have talked about the points, and that's easy to look up, but defensively it's not pretty. And some of it is the goaltending, but like we talked last week, sometimes you cause bad goaltending by who's on the ice, so it's a mix of that. I mean, no other forward in the league has had more even strength goals against
that's
in the league.
It's not good at all.
And it's also why he's like minus 17 or whatever. And I know, haha, plus minus. Well, I have an analytic for you. 42% expected goals at even strength. That is so. It's not just bad luck. It's not just bad goaltending. It's a bit of a defensive issue. So I think
it's almost half the time.
Yeah. So, so I think what Bender always talks about is like your good defending can lead to offense. And I think that's maybe where it needs to start. I think he needs to be more involved, more physical. He's not a physical guy. You know, we're not expecting hitting here, but he just needs to, as Bender would say, be more competitive and like puck battles and stuff. And I know that's not his strength, and that's where you got to work with him. I think he can improve. I think, like I said, having maybe one consistent line mate he connects with, that could help too. But I think you also just sort of need to recalibrate your expectations of what you think he is. He's not a set and forget 2C. I think when Colton comes back and he's not needed on the top line, maybe that's when Jerome comes back. Make it a competition. You know, if you believe in merit, just don't hand it to him. It's between Colton and Middlestat, who's playing better. And I think they need to make not like a stacked second line and then a third line of others. I think they need to use Ivan and Kovalenko in the top 9, make 2 decent second and third lines, and then so that's what I would do. I would take a little bit off his plate and work with him. So that's my answer.
I absolutely love it because it's easy to look at this situation and, like you said, just point out like, oh, he needs to score more goals. But it really is an all-encompassing improvement that needs to happen. And you're totally right. Like in terms of the merit, like what did Ross Colton do besides get hurt to not validate him being the 2C, to not even more so to validate him being on the power play? He was filling it up on the power play before he got hurt. And he was doing it in that bumper role, which we saw Kadri play when he had power play success. And we kind of know that that's really not Casey's game. So it is interesting to me. And I like the idea of when Ross Colton comes back, making it a 2C competition. Obviously, that doesn't bode well in my mind in terms of the assets you gave up to get Casey Middlestat, because you gave up assets that should equal, to me, a set and forget 2C, but that might not be the reality. And I also like that you mentioned that Bednar likes the compete because Ezra, Ivan is still Ivaning. He's competing with the best of them. And look no further than him as the example of earning a job based on merit and buy-in. It seemed like his line with O'Connor and Kiviranta at times was the Colorado's best line last night against the Sabres. How does Ivan's undraftedness change your interpretation of how players develop in the NHL?
Well, I think there are some guys who can just get by with smarts and try hard, and Ivan is not truly that because he has the skill, but he didn't have the skill that popped in his draft year, and he didn't get drafted. But he had the head, and he had the legs, and he had the heart, so, and he's using those things. And it's very similar to Logan O'Connor, where you have a guy who's smart and can skate, who works really hard. And they can develop the skills over time,
right.
You know, working with a skills coach, their games are different, but the two of them the two of them show me like there's tons of hope for guys who are in the Av system, who maybe don't have the high-end skill that we look for in a high-end draft pick, to someday make it as a middle 6 player or bottom 6 player in the NHL. Now, you're not going to find a top 6 player like a true top 6 player who doesn't have skill in their draft year. That's not going to happen. But there are so many guys who could become something. I was encouraged by Chase Bradley. I was encouraged by some other guys who Nikita Prishpov, number 1, who also have a chance to crack the lineup and follow Ivan's, example, I guess, of being guys who really don't have an NHL pedigree, but with good head, good heart, and a lot of work, they can make it.
I think there's also another common thread that I'd like to point out. It's just the longevity that they've been in the organization. All of these guys that we just mentioned, 2 years and under. So there's something about making a quick opportunity, but it has to come quick. That's just such a... I think that's what's hurting the guys that are drafted traditionally at 18. They wait 2 years, then 2 or 3, if you go to college and then you come in. And I just think that if there's any lesson to be learned, it's why. Why are these guys that they signed? Why are they getting looks so quickly? Why is that the only path to really making it? I mean, it's exceptional with Ivan, assuming that he really does stick and he's an Av from now on, is that he didn't even get a look last year, which that's usually the path you need. You need to start building, like Prishapov. I'm so glad that they brought him back, at least just for this trip, because it's so important to build on that experience. Like, you can't just have 5 games and then go back. You need to build on it. So for Ivan, he did it without any games last year, but He just started his ELC. So, there's some urgency. There's some like interest the organization has in these guys. Same thing with O'Connor. It was 2 years. He did play in the AHL. We know that, but it was 2 years from when he signed to when he became like a regular Avalanche.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an interesting aspect to look at.
Something to kind of key on in the future too. It's like if you see a guy get his look, let's key on that with young Cal Ritchie. Obviously, I think he's destined to be a full timer, but when is the question?
It's got to happen fast. He's got to be
exactly.
on the team next year. If they do a little like new hook, set him down for 2 weeks, okay, that's not a big deal.
Yeah,
but he basically has to be on the team next year.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I want to open it up to everybody kind of the last two subjects. We talked about Casey kind of struggling, Casey Middlestat struggling 5-on-5, and Ivan taking a less than, I guess, orthodox route to becoming potentially a full-time NHLer. And you did mention Pristupov too. What are your, I guess I'll send this one to you, B. What are your expectations for Pristupov? Do you think he'll stick around longer, or is this just a quick trip and back to the AHL?
Well, first off, with the Bradley, I like Bradley, but I've talked to a couple scouts that were at his game in Denver, and then have seen him play in the AHL, I won't name what team they're from, but because I won't put them under hot water, but they were saying that at the NHL level that he was barely keeping his head above water. So I think he needs more. I mean, he's good at the AHL level. He just needs more time at the AHL level to develop, get used to the pro game in order to make that jump to the NHL level. Because, I mean, he came right back and scored 2 goals in the game that he came back in.
Mm-hmm.
And so the skill can be there. It's just now Prishpatov, I think the natural skill is there. The kid just needs to put on a little bit more weight. He's still growing. He's still young.
Get on that Cal Ritchie diet plan, baby.
Yeah, right. Find out whoever your trainer was, trainer was, and get that 20 pounds of extra muscle weight on. My gosh. But Prishpatov is definitely what's that?
He had like zero pro money this summer, so
yeah. Good point.
I think
you can afford those resources.
What impresses me about him is that he can be so physical, even as you said, if he needs weight. Like he throws the body around. If you look at like his hits per 60, it's up there with the top guys on the team.
Yeah. And he's got like 3 or 4 inches on me when I see him in the hallway. So I mean, he's not a tiny guy. He just needs to put some muscle on. Yeah. And put some lean weight on. It's just he's lanky.
Yeah.
So I think once he does that, he'll get even better.
I love it. And I think that we talk about the early time frame, he fits that. I mean, this is kind of his first look, and he's coming back again. So that is a positive sign in terms of Pristupov's arc and becoming a full-time Colorado Avalanche. But let's move on to our last segment where we'll do bold predictions. But before we do that, I want to talk about the Four Nations face-off, because in February, between the 12th and the 20th, we will see Canada, Finland, Sweden, and USA face off in a kind of round-robin style tournament, I believe. First of all, who will you be rooting for? Interesting question. And Brennan's offended by that even being a question. I'm guessing you're Team USA all the way. And
duh.
And the second question is, are you more concerned about Avalanche just getting through the tournament healthy than you are with the actual outcome? Evan, go ahead.
Short and sweet for Brennan there.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if I had to have a horse in the race, I guess it would be the U.S. I mean, I'm looking forward to watching it. I mean, I think I'm just excited to see what it's going to be about and just kind of be a fan, I guess, and see, of course, the Avs that are participating in the competition. Lehkonen, of course, just announced the Team Finland today, which isn't a surprise. He'll join Mikko Rantanen there. We should be getting, if I'm not mistaken, the U.S. and Canadian teams here pretty shortly. I think they started at like 6 Eastern, which is 6:13 here is the time of recording this. So those should probably be coming soon. I'd imagine that Devon Toews would join Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon on Team Canada. On the U.S. side, I think the only one that could join from the Avs is Middlestat. And I don't really love
unless you want to have like Dahan or something like that.
That ain't happening.
That's a stretch, but
Dahan played great last night, but that's not happening. But
I mean, you get my point. There's more Americans on the team, so
yeah. I mean, I'm just looking forward to seeing what it's going to be all about, I guess. And that'll be fun. And I definitely, like you said, Ado, definitely just want to get through it.
Survive.
Just knowing how this team is, like I'm ready for another shoe to fall, and it better not be in the Four Nations.
Yeah, well, I asked the question of who you're rooting for because it's interesting because like some Avalanche fans might be really, really big Nathan McKinnon fans at the heart of it.
I think Anthony just said it right.
What did Anthony say?
Well, I have a different answer. It's not the USA.
Let's see. Anthony said, I wish the boys didn't have to play, especially with the injury plague season. Those boys have been carrying the team and they can't afford something to happen. Jackie, what do you think of that?
Okay. I understand the concern, but I don't really share it. I do get that, but these guys are competitors. They're the reason why they're at the level they are, and it's important to them to represent their country. And I think assuming that they come through healthy, I think it's a benefit because it's high stakes. You have to bring it. You're not dragging yourself through another February game against Nashville or something. Mm-hmm. You're playing something important that's meaningful to you. And it's a good experience. It's something that's, like I said, it's important to these guys, and the experience, I think, will only help them. So I'm not like, dreading, let's get through this. And hey, it's right before the deadline. Means injuries mean more LTIR. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not hoping anybody. But I'm saying the timing of it. You get
I know what you mean.
February, you're probably back in April.
Yeah.
At least by April. No, I'm kidding. Though I'm not. I do not root for injuries. But I'm just saying, I don't think it's like panic level. You know what I mean? Even if the worst happened, even if somebody got injured, I don't think it's like, that's it for your season. Yeah. I think there's way more to gain than to lose. For me, I do not root for the USA in these. I'm sorry, I don't. It does not mean anything to me as an American. I did not grow up on World Championship hockey. So if it's unpatriotic, if it's terrible, but it's not something where I'm just blindly going to root for a bunch of guys I don't even like. We don't even have an Av on the team.
Yeah.
Do I even like anybody on that team particularly? No, I don't really like the American players, especially not in a group of them together. I'm just going to root for them.
Yeah.
I think I'll probably, Canada will have the Avs, but to be honest, I think my heart would lie with Finland. I want Finland to win. I think it helps cement Mikko's legacy as a Hall of Famer. If they do well and if they get a medal, it's cool that Lehkonen's on the team too.
Yep.
But we also have to talk about World Juniors is going to be a big deal. That's going to be a big one, and my heart will be with Canada, with Cal Ritchie, because that's going to be a big one. He was named to the selection team, which no surprise, but I think he's going to be top 6 on that team. So it's going to be his stage to shine, which is kind of dangerous to have those expectations because you're saying, just go dominate like it's easy, but he is dominating in the OHL again, so it's his chance to prove that he's a special player. So I will be rooting for Canada there.
Yeah, I'd like rooting for Canada and for Cal Ritchie in the World Juniors, and I like that because he's an Avalanche. And I have to agree with you. The only USA hockey I grew up on was Mighty Ducks, and that's not real. So I'm with you. Like, I'm a sucker for the underdog. And so I like Finland as the underdog because of Mikko and Lehkonen's presence. And I agree with you. I think if Mikko leads Team Finland to, I guess, the victory in that tournament, it does go to me a long way towards cementing him as a Hall of Famer. And I'm like a sucker for Mikko. In fact, when Mikko got the MVP in the World Junior Tournament, the first thing I did was tweet one of my friends and say, "Hey, look, this is this guy the Avs drafted. He's a future Avs legend." And I was right, baby. So it's full circle. We got to see Mikko in the World Juniors. Maybe we can see Cal Ritchie get the MVP in the World Juniors for his country and get the ball rolling on his development as an Avalanche. But it does look like I'm just like refreshing over and over again to try and get that Team Canada.
It might be 4:30, 6:30, whatever.
Yeah,
they said.
It is.
So,
So we could go late, but
might need to wait.
Yeah,
just a few more minutes there.
I got dinner to cook. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how that lasts.
I got a take and bake to go pick up. What are we doing here? But well, with that being said, then let's move on to our bold prediction.
Oh, I wanted to say one thing, if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
Okay, the U.S. team might not have any Avs, but there's so many, like, potentially. We don't know the official roster yet, right? But there are so many potentially fun. There are so many potentially fun young players, right? Like, I don't love Matt Boldy because he's a wild, but I love him because he's a young guy who might get an opportunity. Cole Caulfield is a young guy who might get an opportunity. Jack Hughes is a young guy who might get an opportunity. There's so many.
Like him. No.
All right, your call, man. You do it, you. But for me, I think the Canada team is going to be mostly guys I already know, and the U.S. team is going to be mostly guys who, I know them because I follow hockey, but like guys who are trying to cement their legacy, not cement their legacy, but like cement their like status as a top tier player. I think there's more fun storylines with the U.S. than with Canada. Finland has terrible defense. I can't see them winning it. I'm not going to back that. And then Sweden is kind of like Canada in that, like, we know all those guys, especially they named like Gustav Nyquist to the team. What are they doing? I mean, it's no fun.
I will say that they had Leo Carlson, which I thought that was fun.
Leo Carlson's cool.
Yeah, that's an interesting, because a lot of what they've talked about with Team Canada is Anthony Cirelli and how he'll probably make the team because, they got the Tampa coach is going to coach Team Canada. I don't know. John Cooper is going to coach Team Canada, and Cirelli's his PK all-around extraordinaire guy, pretty much.
Hey, Cirelli's good. I like him.
Yeah, so
Cirelli's great.
So I think maybe that explains some of the other acquisitions around the other teams that are kind of like head scratchers. I think maybe in that similar vein, it's probably like a coach or a system that they think the guy fits better than maybe another dude who's better overall. But I'm just excited. I mean, I think if I'm being 100% honest, I will probably root for Team USA, but if I'm with Jackie, like they don't reach out to my heart as much as Team Finland does.
Big fan of Brock Faber, though. You gotta love Brock Faber.
No.
Yeah. No.
Here, I will say this because we haven't touched on this team yet. Team Sweden, right?
Sweden's always boring.
Would have been sick
boring.
if Landeskog was.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
They're always like second
Landeskog
place.
have made the team if he
I think so.
came back to start this year?
Probably
Think
because
so?
he was their captain in
Yeah,
other
captain.
international tournaments leading
I mean,
up.
it
But I
depends
guess
what
here-
he would have done. Like, did he have
And that's
10
a-
goals by now? Okay, sure, but that's just so hard to quantify.
Good question, though.
Yeah,
Because,
it is a
like,
good
but in the
question.
same
And
way,
then
like the
this
Avs
year-
want him in the lineup for the like morale booster, Sweden would want him in the lineup.
Yeah.
Good
At least in
point.
the locker room.
Yeah.
I will admit, I was thinking in the back of my mind, I'd say like a month ago, and I was like, what if he just like randomly appeared on the roster?
Can you imagine if he
For
made
Sweden.
his debut for Sweden
would've
instead of
been-
Colorado?
That would have been
Wow.
very
I'd be
cool.
so angry.
Yeah,
I don't think they
that
would.
would not be okay.
I'd
would
probably
have,
literally throw something at the TV.
By God, that's Gabe Landeskog music. Yeah, that would be crazy.
Sweden's too structured to win in a short tournament.
Yeah.
That's why they usually don't. I'm not going to say never. They probably have it at some point, but it seems like every single year they're like second place.
So
Well, they won the Worlds when a year Landy
Landy
did it.
did, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember Landy, Hedman were on it. I think Carlson was on it.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, it's just the Worlds, who cares? And you see the type of celebration those countries have. It's like, it means a lot to them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's also the team with the best hair.
Yeah. That's what I'm about, baby.
Yeah.
Who else is? I'm looking at Team Finland's back end now. They got Heiskanen and Lindell.
The Dallas.
Ristolainen, not too bad. But I mean, when you stack them up against Cale Makar and Devon Taves,
If their
kind of
plan is to
changes.
play Makar and Taves together, it might not be good for
Well,
Canada.
Yeah.
And my question is Taves going to even play if he's given the opportunity because he's dinged up here? So
Yeah.
I bet they wouldn't. I mean, he's on the projected roster. I guess we'll see officially, but I don't know that they would name it if he's just going to pull out. So, I don't know.
Is
I'd be
USA the
surprised.
favorite given Canada's weakness in net?
Ooh,
I really don't know who the favorite is. I'd have to see what.
Because like the Avs have the best or the Avs, the US has the best goalies, I would say. Maybe Sweden.
Well, yeah, Hellebuyck's going to be their starter for the U.S.
Yeah, and then they got why am I saying Shesterkin? Not Shesterkin. Who am I thinking of to back him up? Oh gosh, but
Swayman.
But yeah, Swayman. But Canada has Bennington and
Hill, maybe?
Skinner. Yeah.
Hill, I think.
Canada's goalies are
We'll see
so
who they
bad.
pick.
It's incredibly hilarious.
So it's like that's kind of what I'm keen on here. It's like, is this America's tournament to lose at that point?
Goaltending wise.
Yeah, I would say so.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think Canada still has so much depth in the forward and defense groups that they I'm sure think it offsets the goalie issue.
Yeah,
well, you're gonna have the Hughes kids, and then you're gonna have Matthews, Eichel. Who else?
So here's the guys in the running for goalie and Team Canada. Logan Thompson, not too bad. Aiden Hill, what are we? Las Vegas. Jordan Bennington, Cam Talbot, Sam Montembeau, and Stuart.
I think
Skinner.
Montreal's start took Montembeau out.
That's not good goalies, not on the world stage by any means. So it's going to be a little bit scary and fun though. How fun is this going to be? Are you guys excited, or are you just kind of like, whatever, because it's not the Olympics?
It has to be February for me.
It will be nice to see best on best, but like I said, we got to get through the World Juniors first.
Yeah,
you got World Juniors. The Avs have to stay healthy first and foremost. If they lose participants because of injuries before or during the Four Nations, then I'm just gonna be like, what are we doing? Like, I don't know. I gotta wait until I see it. I guess I'm looking forward to it. It's different from the All-Star game. But I gotta wait for it at least. I have too much other stuff to worry about at the moment, I guess.
Well, I think I stalled just long enough so that now we can do our bold prediction recap and give our bold predictions real quick, and then we'll get the release of those rosters. So let's do that now. Ezra, last week you got a buzzer and you weren't here, and so now I'm gonna give you another one. Come on, dude. What are we doing?
What did I predict?
Nothing at all. That's why you got your buzzer.
No, what? Okay, yeah.
Oh, last week. I don't know. I can't remember.
That's okay. That's okay.
In my head. Let's go, Jackie. This week you said last week you said Middlestat will score a 5-on-5 goal.
It's like I was trying to help you out, but
we've
didn't happen.
gone well into how he didn't. And then I had McKinnon to have a hat trick against the Oilers. That didn't happen either. Evan had the Avs to shut out the Sabres. They did for 2 periods, but they gave up 4 in the first, so that didn't happen. And then Brennan said that McDavid would go pointless. And yikes.
Nope, that didn't happen.
Yeah, first goal. Yeah, I was listening to that one on the way home.
Yeah, it's like Brennan predicted him to go pointless. Only natural that he is on the first goal.
That assist was ridiculous, though. I will give him that.
I was listening to Connor McGay. He announced it, and I'm like, oh crap.
Well, let's roll that track, baby, and we'll get this week's installment of Bold Predictions.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Let's call that bold talk.
All right, Ezra. I feel like I cut you off. I feel like you were ready.
No, you're good.
I feel like you were ready to give me your this week's bold prediction. Is that true?
You're absolutely right.
Heck yeah.
So far, Scott Wedgewood has a shutout streak going, and I know I just said it out loud, which curses it. But my bold prediction is he keeps it going for another 2 periods. He doesn't give up a goal till the 3rd period in Carolina. Against Carolina.
Until the 3rd period against Carolina. I like it. So it's like a 4-period shutout.
Yeah,
I dig it. I dig it.
He doesn't get a shutout because I don't think does the one in relief count?
I don't think so.
It's
Yeah,
Like,
he
officially,
won't have one statistically, but he'll have over a game of shutout.
Gotcha.
Fantasy wise, it does, but no.
That's interesting.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting.
As far as I know on Yahoo, it does.
Nice. Well, pick up Scott Wedgewood then, according to Ezra, because he thinks he's going to get you a couple more shutout periods, baby.
But then
Stone already did for
that
my
is a
league.
good question. Are they going to ride it or go back with George?
I think you got to ride the hot hand.
Yeah, I guess the counterpart to my prediction then is if they start Georgiev, he does give up a goal in the 1st period. But that's
I'm gonna put that down.
You can.
He does get scored on in the 1st period. Okay, Jackie, what you got for me this week?
Okay, this is going to be a get out your calculators one.
Okay.
I think the defense will score more points total before next show, so however many games, 3 or 4 games. Then the forwards score at 5-on-5 combined.
Wow. So
the defense gets everything, all situation. But the forwards, it has to be 5-on-5. And I think the defense will score more. The Avs defense, to be clear, will score more than the Avs forwards do at 5-on-5.
They should just put that on the board and say challenge.
Yep.
And see how it works, because I like that as a challenge even to the forward group and to the defense. So I dig that. That would be nice. I don't know how nice it would be. Let's say this. Hopefully the forwards get 4 5-on-5 goals minimum, and then just the defense has like 6. I'm fine with that. So Evan, what you got for me?
Well, Ezra took mine, so thank you, Ezra. No, it's okay. It's all right. I figured someone would do it because it seems like the right thing to do now. So man, I don't know. Yeah, why not? What the heck? It might happen. It might not. Ross Colton comes back before the end of the road trip, and he will at least get a point.
Ooh.
Okay, I like it.
I like it too. So far we have Wedgewood having a 1st and 2nd period shutout against Carolina. We got the defense scoring more points total before our next show. Then the forward group will score 5-on-5. And Evan, you have Ross Colton returning and getting a point. Brandon, what you got for me?
I'm going to go off the reservation here. So DU is going to split the series with Western Michigan.
Wow, split. You're counting on them to lose one?
Western Michigan's ranked and ASU wasn't.
So you're worried.
Those DU games were ugly the last time.
They were, and since I was watching one live, that they were quite ugly. And since the Eagles are not too hot on the road, I will say that they will take one on the road at Abbotsford.
Okay.
So one on the road. For both.
It splits for both.
Against Abbotsford.
So Western Michigan gets one and Abbotsford gets one.
Okay. Got you down. Abbotsford with 2 B's. So I like it when you go off the reservation, as you put it. That's fun.
Well, I mean, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
We need some more Eagles and Pios updates anyway. I know. Actually, let's just do that now while we're waiting for the rosters, because I know Jackie just put out her 3 stars of the month.
I like
for
that.
The Eagles, and hear her take and Brennan's take on it.
Yeah, I probably wonder if Brennan will disagree with my stars, but to be clear, I want to preface it. I think of it as from an Avs perspective, so I don't like to just pick the vets. You know, this is why I didn't pick McDonald, or I'm just not picking the top 3 scoring vets. So That's not what the stars mean to me. But I did end up picking Matthew Phillips as third star. I think all the prospects were injured. There really wasn't a good argument for anybody else. So I think he needed to get his due. So he's a vet. They pay him to score. He scored, so he's doing his job. I am surprised they called him or they didn't call him and they called Tynan the last time. It was a little odd, especially since Tynan's really not scoring that much in the AHL. Second star was a new guy, Jake Wise, which I'm going to assume Brennan likes. This guy. He signed a PTO when all the guys were called up to the Avs, and then they just signed him to a contract, so AHL contract. But it's interesting because he was a third-round pick of the Blackhawks, never signed with them. So I guess you could sort of say there's maybe a little bit of prospect upside there. He had a good week. I don't remember exactly how many points, like 11, 12 maybe. I think 12 points in 13 games. And then the first star, I picked Inala, who was the Finn, the 26-year-old Finn they scored. Coincidentally, I guess, he's Lecky's sister's boyfriend.
Huh.
We didn't know that. So is that why they signed him? Or is that how he met Lecky's sister? I don't know.
That's crazy.
So he had a slow start in October, only had a couple points. But once November started, he did really well. I think it was maybe like 14 points for him as well.
USA roster's out, by the way.
He's been pretty consistent, and I also think he deserved a call up, but maybe that's coming. So those are the 3 stars according to me.
I'm still surprised that Inala has not gotten a call up. I
Right?
thought he would have gotten one by now.
I think he would have gotten that promise.
Honestly, I get why Bradley was called up over Inala, but it's the weight factor, the heaviness factor that he can throw. Yeah,
But then why did you even sign him? Like, you knew who he was, you knew what his game is, what his size is. Like, what's the point then?
Well, at this point right now, they need someone who can throw the body around a little bit more.
But like, even Bednar admitted, like, Bradley had a bad camp. It was just funny.
Yeah, right.
I think he needs more than 2 weeks to go from bad camp to and like you said, the scouts said he couldn't keep up. So it's like he wasn't ready.
But all is definitely adjusting to North American ice well, and Wise is on an AHL contract. I have reason to believe that may change. That's just me personally. That's not what I'm hearing, but I would honestly would be surprised if that doesn't change, because why would they not give themselves another option? But Wise has been very contracts. Good. Huh?
They hate signing guys. They really,
I know,
really do. But
and they did it with Holland. They did it. The Holland went on a PTO, Eagles PTO, but and then Kiviranta, good example, went on the Eagles PTO, made the team as an Eagles AHL deal, and then ended up working his tail off, and then got re-signed as a Eagles two-way, or I'm sorry, Avs two-way, and then has been with the Avs since.
I think they remember the hat trick. I think that has something to do with it. But yeah, he was in the AHL first.
Well, so you guys never let me make my bold prediction. So
you're right. I'm sorry.
What the heck? I mean, geez. Oh, I'm just kidding though. But I do want to do it really quick because we have the roster from Team USA. So I want to get into it real fast before we head out. But I'm going to say the Avs make a trade in Pittsburgh while they're in Pittsburgh. With
what?
Pittsburgh while they're in Pittsburgh.
You're stirring.
Okay,
do not say Crosby. I will slap you in the face.
He is stirring the pot.
I'm not going to say who at all. That's what
What
I'm
kind of
gonna.
trade? You just think while they're there, they're going to
I think,
consummate a
yeah, I
deal?
think they'll do some dealing while they're there, and that way the travels can be expedited. They can just
They
switch
do love
bags.
doing that.
Yeah.
Let's just preface it out there for all the people who are listening to this later. The Avs don't have anything that they can offer Crosby right now, I don't think.
Well,
So,
the thing is
Except
it
for a
would,
chance to hoist, baby.
No.
well,
come on.
yeah, they got to get better. First of all, they got to be a lot higher in the standings, I think, for Sid to pull the
Yeah.
ripcord on that. But
Agreed.
it would be a deal where
Please.
they're doing him a favor. It's not going to be a clean out your assets kind of deal. It would be a, we're getting a return, but we're doing Sid a favor kind
Doing
of
right
thing.
by Sid. Well, let's
Yeah.
look at this Team USA roster and see who they did right by and who they did wrong by. First thing I'm noticing, no Cole Caulfield. Vincent Trocheck instead, it looks like. Chris Kreider made the list.
That's
Can you
not
just
a
go through it?
shocker.
I'm not even looking at it.
Matt
so
Boldy, Jack Hughes, Brock Nelson, Kyle Connor, Chris Kreider, Brady Tkachuk, Jack Eichel, Dylan Larkin, Matthew Tkachuk, Jake Gensel, Austin Matthews, Vincent Trocheck, and JT Miller rounds out the forward group. Brock
What a
Faber.
likable bunch.
Yeah. Not like, so the front of the picture on the post that I'm looking at from the NHL, it just has Matthews and Eichel, and I already don't like them. So
I'm sorry, the defense.
So the defense: Brock Faber, Noah Hannafin, Jacob Slavin, Adam Fox, Quinn Hughes, Jack Rowinski, Charlie McAvoy. Pretty decent D core there. And goalies: Hellebuck, Ottinger, and Swayman. So that all checks out in the goalie and defense group to me. I think where we're kind of a little wild is Cole Caulfield not being on the roster. Maybe Robertson and Thompson could have potentially
I
had
was
an
about to say
argument.
Tage Thompson because he almost had a first period hat trick last night.
Yeah.
Canada's out.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's
All
go
right.
look
Who's
at
on
Team
there?
Canada. Canada.
So we got Sam Bennett, Anthony Cirelli, Sid Crosby, Brandon Hagel, Seth Jarvis, Travis Konechny, Nathan McKinnon, Brad Marchand, Mitch Marner, Connor McDavid, Braden Point, Sam Reinhart, and Mark Stone. All not surprises.
Right.
Defense are Cale Makar, Josh Morrissey, Colton I can never say his last name. Parayko. Alex Pertangelo, Travis Sanheim, Shea Theodore, and Devon Tace.
Wow.
You scared me when you didn't say Devon Tace.
His name was last. I was just going in order.
I know.
Goaltenders are Bennington, Hill, and Montebolt.
Oh, wow. They picked.
Wow.
Montemau's a surprise. A little bit.
I take it back. The U.S. is the favorite.
Yep. U.S. is team favorite, in my opinion, looking at this.
How did they name Parayko to this? Okay, whatever.
Whatever. You do you. You do you. I know. I mean, Shea Theodore is great.
He's great.
Yeah. It's interesting. How are they going to pair these guys is the question. That's where I'm interested.
I guess you got your Avs pair, you got your Vegas pair, and then Morrissey, Sanheim, and Parayko in the press box.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. Well, you heard it here first, folks. That's the Team Canada roster, and we just read off the Team USA roster. The Team Sweden was released earlier in the day. You can go check that out. Same with Finland's squad. So it looks like the rosters are set, and on the cover of the Team Canada post is Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, and Nathan McKinnon. And I hate to be that guy, but that's a team that I'd be willing to root for a little bit more than the three guys on the Team USA. But I'm going to roll with my country. I guess you're right. It's the patriotic thing to do, Brandon. I'm sorry. But yeah, Peterman said, look, about this when I talked about Sidney Crosby, chance to hoist. You guys all laughed at me. I get it. Well, I think that'll wrap it up today. We have nothing else to talk to. We probably talked about absolutely everything on this episode, so that's really good. Folks, please head on over to our website, milehighhockey.com, for all of our written material. Give us a follow on social media platforms at MHH_lab and at Mile High Hockey. follow all 4 of these wonderful people on their social media platforms as well, and go look up their catalogs on the website. And be sure to give us some bold predictions in the comments and stuff of the written material so that we can read your bold predictions on the air and we'll have a little bit of fun. But thank you folks for tuning in. We have about 410 live viewers right now. To the 410 of you, we really, really appreciate you. And we thank you on behalf of Jackie K, Evan Liu, Brennan Vogt, Ezra Parter. My name is Adrian Hernandez, and this has been the Mile High Hockey Lab. Go Avs.
Thank you for tuning into the Mile High Hockey Lab.